Now, having seen the problem of choice, let us now see what are the problems that are faced by an economy. The first problem is what is to be produced and in what quantities. So I discussed this earlier, whether to produce food grains or clothings or build houses. So these are, say, let's say, three uses which land can be put to. So the question with an economy is what is to be produced? A, B or C, or A plus B plus C. Because fact of the life is that all these three things are important. I mean, if you take your example, it cannot be that you eat and eat and eat, but you don't require any clothes or you don't require a house to live in. Similarly, if you have a house to live in, even then you need require clothes and food to eat. So therefore, what becomes important is, let's say there is 100 acres of land. Okay? The first question is, which one is to be used? Let's say all of three of them are to be produced. So the government or the society has to allocate to this, and to this. How much is to be used for each one of them? Let's say we can build houses in 10 acres. We can grow cotton in 30 acres and we want to build food grain in 60. So this quantity, I have taken this as illustrative, but someone has to decide as to who has to produce and what is to be produced and in what quantities. So this quantity or allocation is very important. Second is, for whom should these goods be produced? Okay, another important point. Let's say I use 60 acres of places to grow food grains. Now we know that, let's say you have two things, apples and you have wheat. The question is, for whom should these goods be produced? What does this mean? In every society there are rich people and there are poor people. So a rich man's delight will be apple, but a poor guy would want that he should have wheat. So he would want that this 60 acre should be used to produce wheat, while this guy will want apples. So the second problem is, for whom should this good be produced? Who's the person? Or it could very well be that, suppose you had 100 acres of land which can produce very good food grains. But this grain is sufficient to meet the need of the people of your country. So suppose you produce 100 kg of grains and you require only 50 kg for your local consumption. So then when you have the balance 50 kilogram, where should these go? Whether these should be exported to US, UK, China. So the question is, for whom should these goods be produced? And the third question is, how are these goods to be produced? Suppose I decided I have to produce grain in 60 acres. How are these goods to be produced? Whether I use machinery or through labor, or how? That is also a very important aspect. In a country like India, where the labor is surplus and cheaply available, it might be cheaper to use labor rather than machinery. But then also comes the question of time and quality. So how these goods are to be produced, what is the method which has to be used, whether it is machinery, it is labor, or anything else, is something which is also one of the problems which every economy faces. So the three problems are, what is to be produced, whether to produce food grains, clothing, or build houses, what quantities it has to be produced, for whom these goods should be produced, whether we should give preference to the rich or to the common man, How are these goods to be produced? Machinery, labor, or others?